Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast weekly show brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling. Benji and I were up bright and early on Sunday morning. I'm going to Catalunya first stage tomorrow. Benji's up at 8. We're recording 8:30 UK time. Madness. Podcasters normally never get up this early. We got a lot to talk about. A few race recaps from the .pro racing during the week. Some news. David Lappartient's IOC President bid Tour de France Grand Départ, as well as a lot of race previews, a lot of racing coming up in the next 2 weeks. Pretty much all the Belgian classics, Catalunya, E3, Gent-Wevelgem, Panne, Coppi, Bartali. So yeah, a lot of racing on this week, including the stages, 15 different races, men and women's. But first, Benji, to recap a race close to your heart, or close to you at least. I don't know where Nokere is, but Nokere Koerse was on during the week. We saw the effects of it yesterday when Jasper Philipsen was dropped early on the Cipressa. In my opinion, definitely the effect of the crash. He crashed in Nokere Koerse in the finish when a rider crashed behind him and just took out his back wheel, and he crashed really, really hard. It was an uphill sprint, different finish. They didn't do the traditional cobble run-in because of safety concerns, and Eckhoff won. He was supposed to be leading out Bittner or someone, and he just thought he'd go for it. Takes his first ever road stage or road win. What do you think of the new course?
Firstly, super impressive victory by Niels Eekhoff. To remember that this guy crashed super hard into what I think was a lamppost or something in Alula, and then he came back only recently, I think in Nokere Koerse, delivering one of those long sprint victories. I actually really enjoyed seeing him take the victory here. So that was nice. When it comes to the finish and the way I like it, reality is, what I think doesn't really matter in this situation. At the end of the day, the run-in wasn't safe enough, and as a consequence, they changed it. Philipsen's crash was not related to the run-in. That was because a rider behind him chopped the wheel, and my light just fell out, so I'm in the darkness now, which actually gives a really cool vibe on YouTube right now. But in Nokere Koerse, I actually did like the uphill sprint at the end, but maybe there's a bit too many races with uphill sprints right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's for safety reasons, they had to take out the other finish. I'm not going to lie, it lacked the aura of the traditional Nokere Koerse cobble sprint where Merlier would win. And if you don't know who Niels Eckhoff is, he won the 2019 World Championships, but got under 23 World Championships in Harelbeke, but got disqualified because he drafted his car back after crashing. Kind of crazy.
Luke never recovered.
Luke, I'm pretty sure, when Deflategate happened and Barstool guys picketed the NFL headquarters building, I'm pretty sure Luke chained himself or glued his hand in the front lobby of the UCI headquarters in Egel and was arrested. So he can't enter Switzerland anymore.
He's still there. No one ever took Luke off that wall.
So Eckhoff was robbed, and he gets his biggest win. And then he came third in Bedene-Koksijde. So maybe I'm pretty sure Picnic Post and they'll have to use him as for UCI points where they are in the relegation zone. I wouldn't be using Niels Eckhoff to lead out Pavel Bittner in the miscellaneous .pro one-day races in the north of Europe. I'd be letting him sprint for his own result based on what I saw this week.
Yeah, especially now that we know he's got that in him, because gotta say, we've seen him do wonderful things in the past. Remember, was it with Matthews or something? Eekhoff-Matthews combination was Matthews on Sunweb at some point? I think he was, right? 2021, something like that. In Bretagne Classic, GP Ploe, whatever. That combination was really strong there. We've seen a bit of inconsistency since then, but to see this week, I hope this continues, and I hope we continue seeing him in the ChatGPT races in Belgium. But men's Nokere Koerse aside, women's Nokere Koerse was also ridden. We had INEOS be very vibrant in the final, trying to do a lead out for Linda Zanetti. And Marta Laak, new signing for SD Works. We saw her very strongly at, I'm pretty sure, the Olympics last year. She was on Ceratizit WNT last year. She kind of half-filled the lead out of INEOS a little bit in the run-in, and then eventually got into the wheel of Linda Zanetti, who launched relatively early on this uphill finish, and just came out of the wheel, and Marta Laak destroyed everyone. And it's really nice to see that, because it's a rider that more often than not will be in a domestique role for SD Works, I'm pretty sure. So to see the opposite side of the coin very early in her new season at our new team, being able to deliver a victory as well. I like that because it might give her chances in other races as well. So great to see that. But what happened at Milano-Torino?
Milano-Torino returned with the traditional uphill finish, but it was now in March, and we thought, a weaker start list. It was a weaker start list.
Yeah.
There's no Pogacar, Roglic, etc. But UAE brought 2 hitters from Tirreno, Adam Yates and Isaac Del Toro, as well as Johannesson. If INEOS look good. And it's basically the easiest one-day race ever. Like an Italian break goes... No, it wasn't just Italian, Jonas Rouge as well, but a break goes, it's flat, it's controlled easily, and then you do 2 reps of a 13 minute 9% climb, and you descend, quite a technical descent with a bad road surface in between the two. First rep, UAE smashed it with Arrieta and others, really reduced the group. Then they controlled it. They brought Rouge back, who survived the first rep from the breakaway, and then the final rep, they put on the pace with Covey and then Adam Yates for Del Toro. Only 2 could go with him. Tullet, Johannesson. Johannesson attacked late. Tullet, probably his best performance of his career so far.
Leg-wise. Tactically?
Leg-wise. But then, that showed in the last 500 meters. Well, Del Toro didn't make him. Tullet close a lot of gaps for Del Toro and then opened his sprint too early with Del Toro then finishing it off in the last 250 meters to take his first one-day race victory. But he's wearing an Aero jersey. It was unzipped. Got 200 Swiss franc fine. Isaac Del Toro. I'm sure he'll be able to afford it.
Ridiculous.
For the unzipped jersey for damaging the image of the sport.
Absolutely ridiculous. Apparently, he had a broken zip to his jersey. I'm sorry, but if your kid has a broken zip and it's open as a consequence of that, and you cross the line,
don't win.
The SQ is what it should have been. Is what you're saying?
I think looking at who came second, yes, disqualifying Del Toro would have been a proportionate response. As well, I mean, there's children watching, Benji. There's children watching. You can't have a Mexican teenager with his shirt undone, bowing across the finish line. Damages the sport.
Honestly, in my opinion, ridiculous decision by the UCI. But I see way worse things. I see the UCI do way worse things than
200
that.
Swiss francs. Isn't that the same as what someone got the other day for chopping someone? Or
I think so.
And we were like, that's a bit low. Yeah, it's...
By the way, what do you think of the trend we've seen in the last 2 weeks where the UCI is punishing? For example, I'm a rider. I've got a beat-on. I sit my beat-on. Beat-on's empty. I throw my beat-on into a hedge. It flies into a twig. The twig throws it back into the peloton. I throw it dangerously as a consequence. Technically, indirectly, I made danger to the peloton. That rider gets a yellow card. Is that too much or not? Or should the twig get a yellow card?
I mean, it is really dangerous when the bidons bounce back into the peloton, and there's zones where they should throw their rubbish in bidons or where it's a bit safer. So I really think you should be careful with it, and even if you didn't intend to do it, I have sympathy for the riders. The thing is, a yellow card's not that bad. One yellow card.
Right now, I agree.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
It should be a lot worse, and then it should not be given for such situations.
Yeah, then it should just be a fine, because still, if you're going to get the 200 franc fine, you're not going to do it. Or
500.
These guys, they don't want to just give money away.
5,000 Swiss francs.
If you chop someone legit, you should get 5,000 franc fine. Then people wouldn't do it. Yeah. 5 Gs, you're not going to chop someone.
Does the rider pay that? Does the team pay that? Or is that dependent on the situation?
Depends on the team. I think Alpes, I remember Rudolph saying that, it depends on the fine.
If it makes them win the race, then it's going to be, the team's going to pay it,
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I would be surprised if Van Poppel paid his fine in the TDU. Let's just say that.
GP Denain.
GP Denain, it's a Paris-Roubaix light, very, very light. They go along a great flat cobbled race. Especially a lot of teams can trial equipment in advance of Paris-Roubaix. We saw Roglic here in 2022 before the Tour de France cobble stage. This is why. One day Roglic was cooking then. Anyway, there was actually these dot pro races. There's no easy days, no days off. You got Gianni Vermeersch, Florian Vermeersch, Stegaard, like really, really strong flat classics riders. And there was a selection at 60Ks to go, 1 minute into coverage. Mikkel Bjerg drives it. We see a huge split. Valscheid makes it. Group of 20. I'm like, this is the move. Matt Brennan on the tarmac just after. You see him sprinting, just gets onto the group and nearly missed it. And then that group basically works together and the rest of the race is gone because everyone's represented except FDJ for ASCII. About half the group progressively punctures out of the race, Max Valscheid, etc. Thibaut Del Grosso, I think Alpecin might have won if he didn't puncture, actually, the young Dutchman. And they attack each other. Lotto had 2. They attacked the group, not with the best timing. Florian Vermeersch and the Belgians all didn't want to let each other win. And so they were really closing each other down.
I believe
and you. Matthew Brennan duly won the sprint. The guy from Jumbo.
For best Vermeersch?
Oh, Gianni.
That's the big question here.
Gianni's the best Vermeersch.
Yeah. Now, Brennan, first of all, amazing to see him win. Still, to be honest, still a Neo Pro. Arrived on the scene at Visma Leasebike, I'm pretty sure this year with his World Tour contract. Came from the dev team of Visma Leasebike. British guy. What's his age? 19, 20?
He's 19.
Whew,
and Visma had 2 18-year-olds in San Remo in the women's yesterday.
Ridiculous.
Child labor.
But the thing with Matthew Brennan for me is that I really like the rider type he is. As in, we've seen him multiple times this year. Got a podium, I think, in a sprint at Santos to Down Under. Then we've seen him in opening weekend being like a move ahead. To me, it feels like we've got a bit of a classic sprinter here brewing. Or is he more pure than I think?
No, I think that's a correct assessment. I mean, the 2 big takeaways from these .pro races this week is like the coolness of the young guys. Del Toro in Torino had ice in his veins, and same with Brennan in the finish of GP Denain. They close the right moves, they let others close the wrong moves, and they don't ruin their race. It was really impressive from the 2. I don't know if Del Toro's still a teenager or 20 or whatever, but it was crazy to see that. So I would say, yeah, he's like I said, he's like Michael Matthews. Very similar rider.
Now, I got to talk to you about our training for a second, because as you know, I was sick for 2 months. And then I got into the recovery plan on Joint Cycling. And now I'm flying. Like, I'm not flying yet, because now I've chosen to go with the Lanterne Rouge plan as my next step.
Oh, yeah?
Is that a good idea?
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
I wanted a stamina builder, and the description of the Lanterne Rouge plan said that Patrick said that consistency is key. And I think consistency is key for me right now. So
it is.
I chose the Lanterne Rouge plan, my friend.
Me and you have the talent, Benji. The problem is we take too many weeks off or get into a month off. That was our problem, maybe 2020 to 2023, 24. And now, yeah, the Lanterne Rouge plan has got 1 VO2 max workout a week normally. So 1, like what I call a workout. And then depending on your availability or your level, 3 or 4 cruisy rides.
What do you call those? Vacation out?
I just call them just cruising. Just cruising. If you look at my Strava, that's legit what I would do in Australia. I just do Crumman Creek Valley. I just do an out and back 45Ks, just cruising. Listen to a podcast or something. And then 1 workout a week. That's because, like 5 intervals a week. We know that's not for most people. Maybe that's what people enjoy. It's also probably not good for you long term. Whereas the Lanterne Rouge plan, you can adjust it for your level, your availability. You'll still improve without burning yourself out whilst keeping that consistency. So good to see you're on it, Benji. After afterwards, I hope it calms you down so you're not going too hard all the time. If I see on the Join app, it tells you whether you're overtraining, undertraining, or staying at the correct level. Benji gets the red light all the time.
I have not seen the red light in a while, so okay. I think I'm staying on the right side of the balance right now, which let's keep that up.
Okay, if you want to try out Join Cycling for yourself, you can go through the link down below. You get a 30-day free trial. You can download the app on your phone, workout players on there, and it adjusts immediately based on your needs, your level, or what you want to do. So go and check it out down below. Thanks to Join Cycling for supporting our weekly show, which has been a big hit. Okay, news segment or news time, Benji. Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
You skipped the Belgian man winning a race.
This goes past your house.
I don't actually know, but most of these races probably do.
Yeah.
Regardless, we had a group that got ahead, I'm pretty sure, with the likes of Jakob Söderqvist, Edward Teuns, then also, what was the other team with 2 riders that I'm completely forgetting about in that group?
Quick-Step, Varvageleva and
Yes.
Luc Lamperti.
Anyway, that group ends up getting to the line. We see a long sprint, a very long sprint. I was thinking, okay, Edward Teuns is launching way too early in the last corner with it seemed like 350 meters to go. And the man just kept sprinting, and no one came out of his wheel. We saw a strong lead out in Tirreno, and now as a consequence, we also see a strong sprint with Edward Teuns and Bedene-Koksijde. The nice thing about this victory for me is that, just like Martalag, this is a rider that most of his year will ride as a domestique for other riders, part of a lead-out train as well for Jonathan Milan at Tirreno. So to see him get a chance and take the chance is nice to see. Next to that, I'm also super hyped about Jakob Söderqvist, and I think that's going to continue. But now, okay, Patrick, it's time. You're allowed to talk about the news. Are you happy now?
I would like to respect Bedene-Koksijde Classic.
No.
Actually,
you're not allowed to.
It's actually a very exciting race. And this is why the ChatGPT Belgian races, okay, you can say there's a lot of them. This had a cat and mouse game for 100 kilometers where we were thinking the peloton might catch them, where groups were coming together, where riders were attacking, where there's tactical things in play, where more than 2 different riders could win. That's why these races are so good. And this was a really, like, the group got caught by the lead out from behind in the last 300 meters, and there was no space for UNOX to come through. So a really, really exciting race. And Edward Teuns an example of, like, I think maybe not for leadership, where with leadership, riders get overrated too long when they're declining into their mid-30s. But with actually, like, specialized domestiques, they get underrated. Where Edward Teuns is actually a really, really good rider, and he just spends a lot of his year helping others. Same with Wout Poels, became underrated at one point. And Elias 36, like, okay, but he just won Andalusia. He just came 5th on the Angleroo. Like,
who else would be underrated? That
David de la Cruz. He's 8th in Tirreno.
Yeah.
And no one wanted him a year and a half, 2 years ago.
I agree, but he has gotten a lot of opportunities to get top 10s at Grand Tours on a yearly basis, I feel like. So I do feel like he still gets some opportunities, personally. That being said, let's get right into the news. We've got, first of all, new Tour of Colorado in 2026, which that was a very intriguing article. We've spoken about USA Cycling being in the ditch when it comes to World Tour level racing and so forth. And we see that a British company, Infinite Event Group, this was reported by Cycling Weekly, by the way, announced the creation of the Tour of Colorado for 2026 September between the Maryland Cycling Classic, a one-day race in the US, and the Canadian Classics to kind of make that a block of racing. And I think that's a fantastic idea. And I would love for this to happen. And I hope that the Tour of Colorado can grow from this and become more than just a .pro stage race. I don't know what the classification is they are hunting for, but this is good news, right?
I think so. Hopefully it happens. It sort of came out of nowhere, which made me a little bit dubious that there's literally no one's heard a thing about this, and then suddenly there's going to be a Tour of Colorado. I hope it happens. As there should be a Tour of California, Tour of Utah. In fact, there should be an American Grand Tour. There should be.
The return of the Tour de Trump.
Yeah, I mean, what would it take to get a 3-week Grand Tour in America? Well, I would go to it, Benji. We would go.
Yeah.
If there was a 3-week Grand Tour in America, but the environment in America is crazy. You got high altitude way higher than in Europe, where you can go up and race up at, like you see in Tour of the Gila or whatever.
Right. Stage 7 is the entirety of Route 66.
Yeah, you can have crosswinds, I'm sure, somewhere. I hope it happens, and I hope there's at some point they find space in the calendar to have a proper North American races, and Tour of California would be great too. But yeah, Tour of Colorado is a beautiful place and very popular for cycling. Hope it happens. Sepp Kuss was in the press release, I believe. Other rumor from Escape Collective is that TotalEnergies might co-sponsor INEOS. This sounds strange because INEOS is a petrochemical giant. TotalEnergies is a petroleum globally integrated energy company, but it's a petrochemical giant or petroleum giant. But now I'm looking up. Okay, now we got to look deeper, Benji. This is not just a geopolitical podcast; it's a business podcast. INEOS company takes a major step forward, acquiring TotalEnergies petrochemical assets at Louvain. This is early 2024. So they're doing business, big business together.
Yeah.
And then now they come together with the team to make a French-British alliance to win.
When was the last French-British alliance?
World War II.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. I was already thinking back to the American Revolution when it wasn't the French-British alliance, it was the opposite. Anyway, this is interesting news because I felt like INEOS had capped the amount of money that they were putting into the team.
Sure.
So to see additional investment next to that could bring this team to a higher level. But is it this easy to bring a team like INEOS to a higher level when, for example, if we take a look at the transfer market, everybody that is like, let's be honest about it, the transfer market is meager, if I say so.
Is dead. I mean, there'll be some other young stars that come through, but in the 2 million plus range, there's not many riders available. Roglic already just extended. That was the rumor from Benson this week that Roglic is extended. So Roglic is off the board, Merlier's off the board. You got Coy, and so to me, this is only then the play to then go crazy with the signings in 2027. Of course, extra budget helps with performance, and you can do a broader race program, and you can maybe whatever, but you're not gonna change the team overnight or make a splashy signing, except if you can get Remco Evenepoel, maybe.
And is it more likely that INEOS can get Remco Evenepoel as Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe extended Roglic for another year? Or would you say that Roglic would still run out of contract at the end of 2026 on paper?
Well, I think Remco then leaving to Bora for 26 would make no sense. It also, as a landing spot for a top sprinter now makes less sense to go to Bora, because you know what happens with Bennett and Ackerman. In the end, it never went to the Tour.
Who's available? Welsford and Coy?
Welsford, Coy, Lamperti, and that quickly falls off. Bennett. Actually, I'd take Bennett. Looks good, actually.
Yeah, but for how long?
And for how much money, of course. But back to INEOS Total, I think it's TotalEnergies wanted to make a big splash with the team. I mean, the company wanted to make a big splash with the team. They signed Sagan. That wouldn't have been cheap. They now basically are a completely French team. My guess is, not being in the communications department of TotalEnergies, my guess is they did not want to just be a French team and have French. It's a global company, and just having, all due respect, a bunch of miscellaneous French riders, but for Yegat and Turgis and a few others, wouldn't have been their Janier's. Yeah, of course, it wouldn't have been their dream sponsorship the last few years, I dare say.
That is very possible. I don't know what happens from this point onwards, though. Let's say, hypothetically, TotalEnergies sponsors INEOS. Is that the death of the TotalEnergies team because they would not have sponsorship anymore? And that's a long history. I'm sorry, but this was before your time in cycling, buddy. But Thomas Veuclair in the 2010s in the yellow jersey on the was it the Galibier? I'm pretty sure when he was riding for Europcar, that was brilliant. I'm sorry, but that's a memory marked in my mind. And there's so many small things from this team in the past that it would be a shame to see this team disappear. But have we also not said that there's too many French teams in cycling which cannibalize each other's sponsorship opportunities, which limits their ability to have two big name sponsors instead of one?
Yeah, and also it creates a situation where Grand Tour organizers are asking for extra wildcards because they because there's too many teams they have to or want to invite. And indeed, TotalEnergies has a long history back, over 2 decades. Maybe they were Europcar, maybe they're BlaBlaCar. BlaBlaCar is headquartered in Paris. So I think it doesn't mean the death of the team. It could mean would mean a budget contraction. It looks like they've already had a budget contraction when you look at their signings. And so like all their signings this year were minimum. So it looks like they know it's coming, and they're preparing accordingly. Another announcement regarding Tour de France starts. 2027 will begin in Scotland, and there will be a triumvirate of stages across England, Scotland, and Wales in 2027, starting in Edinburgh. And I think that's really good news because, I think Robbie McEwen, my mate Ian, sent me a sprint. Was there a stage in Edinburgh before Robbie McEwen came back through the peloton and won late?
I think yes. He might have been in his Australian National Championship jersey, but I don't necessarily remember that vividly. But like you said, stage 1, Scotland.
It's in Canterbury.
Would move through Wales and then eventually go to England is what the current rumors, and actually has been confirmed in some announcements as well, that is to be the case. And this is an official announcement by the Tour de France, right? We've spoken about it last week and the week before by BBC reporting on it, but now this is officially announced, and I think it was the Duchess of maybe Scotland or something, or the area that was showing up in like the teaser for this event. Now, I also saw an article in Cycling Weekly that says that Tour de France organizers are optimistic that the 2027 UK Grand Depart will be live on free-to-air TV in the UK, because as you might remember from a few weeklies ago, we spoke about it basically going behind the paywall in the UK on TNT Sport, and as a consequence, there would be no free-to-air Tour de France for the next couple of years. Now, Prudhomme says that he's quite hopeful that they can arrange something, but discussions are still to be made. Now, I look forward to this event, and I was going to say something, but I don't remember. Give me your best Scottish accent. Come on.
I can't wait for the Edinburgh Tour de France start. It's going to be fantastic.
It's actually really good.
Yeah, I had to dial it up. I had to think first. In my mind, I was like, okay, I've been watching a lot of those football show. My Facebook, I'm such a boomer. I'm going to admit something so boomer.
Facebook streams?
No. What's your, there's Reels, TikTok, and then there's Facebook version of Reels. My Facebook algorithm is the most dialed, and it just serves me football anecdotes from classic Barclays, or I get a lot of Celtic anecdotes, and then I get just cricket, just so much cricket, just 30-second cricket stuff.
You lost me when you told me that you still use Facebook in 2025.
I open it and it serves me the exact videos I want to see. It just has Dale Steyn unbelievable outswing compilation. I'm like, holy shit, you know.
Are you
me.
saying that there's an untapped market for LRCP to live stream our podcast on Facebook instead?
No, I don't. If we want to get, as I said, I'm probably not many people are using it, but that was just where I got my Scottish accent from, because there's a lot of football stuff that gets served to me.
Do you still use MySpace or MSN?
I tried. Bebo. You would know what Bebo is. Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't know what Netlog is.
You would alternative to MySpace. I don't know what Netlog is.
Did you know before Facebook, Belgium had a Belgium-wide social network called Netlog?
Called Sportser. And it was headed up by your man. Who's the angry fella they call whenever they want a good quote?
Roger de Vlaming.
He was the founder of Netlog. He's Flanders Elon Musk. Or as an IOC bid, I open TV and Max, and suddenly I saw in the sports live streaming right then was the IOC elections. I was like, excuse me, but that was there. I didn't watch it, but anyway. David Lappartient was handed a heavy defeat in his IOC presidential election. It's Kirsty Coventry who wasn't the favourite. It was Salamanca and Sebastian Coe who were the two favourites.
Who are these people? And for the people that don't know, who's Lappartient?
Lizard people, mate. They're... David Lappartient is the head of the UCI, the Union Cycliste Internationale, and whilst doing that full-time job, he of course had the time to campaign to be president of the IOC.
that full-time job? Doesn't he have like 7 titles, including the mayor of his village and some other like board memberships, etc.? Like, there's no way this guy has the time to do any of those tasks completely fully.
I don't know. He could just be a workaholic.
No,
anyway,
I'm not having that.
Lord Sebastian Coe, I think he brought the Olympics to London, or was like part of that bid when the Olympics came to London in 2012. And then Salamanca is like a legacy. I think his father, he's a Spanish guy. His father was the president of the IOC, so he was the favorite. I think Kirsty Coventry was a Zimbabwean swimmer, quite young. She, early 40s, I think. She's the 10th IOC president, and she won easily. She won with a majority, which was not only was she not like the favorite, but she won with a majority. Salamanca and Co got smashed, and Lappartient got, I think, four votes out of maybe 100 plus available.
Yeah.
So he wasn't a successful bid.
How corrupt is an average governing body of the sport?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I gotta say, my first uneducated reaction was, nice, a woman in charge of the IOC, that's a new thing. But I was also thinking, I don't know if any of these elections in any governing body are fair or not. And some of the journalists pointed towards it not necessarily being fair in some of these governing bodies. So I don't know how to feel about all these elections.
Listen, Benji, I like watching the papal conclave. So this was kind of the bureaucratic version of that when they elect the Pope. And so, yeah, this is, I guess, they
elect the Pope?
Yeah.
I thought a Pope just dies. There's like white smoke coming out of like the thingies.
Benji legit thinks God and Jesus actually just creates the next Pope, and he's there. And I
think he just spawns. And if God doesn't like him, he gets spawn killed.
Mate, the IOC just copied the papal conclave, and then they just it's the same thing.
Okay.
Pretty much, except it was broadcast on Eurosport or Max.
Wait, does it mean you need to have like a papal palmarès before you can try and become the Pope? You need to be like, I've converted so many people to Christianity?
Well, actually, so to your point more seriously, so yes, what happens is people who want to be elected as the IOC president, you do things in your current role to maybe make it better that you more likely that you're elected.
No wonder Lappartient was not elected.
Well, it wasn't a good year last year, I would say, for his CV. But Kirsty Coventry was I think the pre-selection of the incumbent Thomas Bach. And yeah, so I don't know what it means. It just means David Lappartient for cycling. He remains the head of the UCI. And say what you will about him, I think the head of the UCI becoming the president of the IOC would ultimately have been very good for cycling. So this is not necessarily good news for cycling. How this affects the Rwandan World Championships remains to be seen, because one could think that was a move to sway the African voting bloc in the IOC elections. And now that that's over, is it more likely, if there's issues, that it happens in Aigle? Remains to be seen.
Next to Luke, attached to the wall with glue still.
Exactly.
Anyway, that is a new segment?
That's the thing. People are like, even if you don't like someone, you have to acknowledge if they're a cycling person, it would have been good if they were.
True, because I was thinking, what is the best case scenario here? I'm not necessarily happy about Lappartient as UCI president, but at the end of the day, him winning IOC would mean that he would most likely stop his role as president in the UCI, which I'd see potentially as a positive, although I don't know what his replacement is going to be like. And then when it comes to the IOC, he'd still have cycling in mind, so he'd still make decisions with cycling in the forefront of his head, compared to other presidents of the IOC that Kirsty, whatever her name is, she's probably going to take swimming more seriously than cycling. Which, I'm sorry, but swimming's already kind of taken a bit too seriously.
Swimming is a joke. Swimming is just so that the white countries and the rich Western countries can farm medals. How many events? Okay, why doesn't running have backwards running? Why isn't backwards running an event? who can backwards run, to who can sidewards run, and we're going to have all those. Why don't we have that? Fucking, you have free strokes the quickest, you got free stroke. All the rest are out. They're out. And then you're going to have, you can have the different distances. It's ridiculous, like swimming. So cycling, if it would have probably had cyclocross going to the Winter Olympics, which would have been pretty cool. But that probably won't happen now. Race previews. Volta Catalunya begins this week. The first stage, which is in Sant Feliu, which we've seen for a number of years, is the uphill sprint where Colbrelli nearly died a couple of years ago, and Michael Matthews won. So it's a Michael Matthews style sprint. I said he's a Michael Matthews style rider, so we have Michael Matthews style sprinters here. We have Axel Laurence, we have Matthew Brennan, Caden Groves, who is the archetype type Michael Matthews sprinter, Pavel Bittner, Govakar. We then have another uphill sort of sprint in Figueres on the coast. So 2 real sprints. Then on stage 3, the La Molina stage, load of climbing, 210 Ks, 5,000 meters climbing, I think, but not that hard. Who won this with Remco and Roglic?
With Remco and Roglic, I think it was Remco that won it. No? I think so. Because it was the more altitude in the stage, the better Remco arrived at the finish in that race compared to Roglic. Because Roglic suffered that week from fatigue over long altitude meters, if that makes sense.
That's right. So that's that stage. Stage 4 is an uphill finish, pretty hard one to Montserrat. Without that harder stage, a hill stage beforehand, then another sprint on stage 6. So really 3 sprints. On stage 5, another sprint. Then stage 6 is the really hard medium mountain stage with a 6K, 7.5% climb to Keralt out of Berga. So that's I think Sepp Kuss helped design that stage a couple of years ago. And then stage 7 is the famous Barcelona stage, which indeed is a preview of the Tour de France stage that I'll probably have. So pay closer attention to that than normal. It's only 90 Ks though, because of the changed, whatever changed the race doesn't really change it. They do 6 laps of a punchy hill circuit.
I honestly like the Sepp Kuss designed mountain stage 6 a lot. Like the Col de Pradel, 15.1K, 6.7%. I'm pretty sure there's a steep segment in that climb as well. Then there's another climb after that, 5K, 8.8%. And then the final climb is 6K, 7.5%. You can make a raid stage out of that if you really need to, which that's something I really like. And that could play out depending on what GC looks like at that point in the race. Like we say, is stage 2 a pure sprint stage, or is it also an uphill sprint? Because the last little bit of that route looks slightly uphill. So it's not as hard as stage 1, but it might be a similar finish, perhaps, is how I could see it. So I'm looking forward to this race, but who is here? UAE Team Emirates arrives with Juan Ayuso, I would say, as their leader, but next to him, the likes of Adam Yates, Pavel Sivakov, Pablo Torres, Novak, Johansson, and Soler. Are we worried about Novak's shape based on Milano-Sanremo?
No, he did the same thing in Sanremo last year. That's why they shouldn't have picked him.
Next to UAE, Visma bike with Sepp Kuss, Kelderman, Simon Yates, Bart Lemon, Brennan, Huizing, Kruiswijk. I think Vingegaard was supposed to ride this, but then a week ago, Visma bike reported online that he ain't gonna ride it because he's still getting back from his crash in Paris-Nice. Outside of these 2 teams, we can't forget to talk about Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe because they've got potentially a co-favorite in this race, depending on what his form is at this race. Primoz Roglic, their team is not confirmed around him though, but the preliminary start list says Jan Tratnik, Pellizzari, Aliotti, Wandal, Hayek, and Dens. I look forward to seeing Pellizzari in the colors of Red Bull Bora-Hansgrohe because I haven't seen that since the Mallorca challenges, I think.
That's right, he's been at altitude, so a lot of the guys have been at Teire. So I think, Pellizzari's clearly, he's the number 1 climbing domestique for Roglic here.
Yeah, that is true. INEOS Grenadier showing up with Egan Bernal, Thomas. You already said that Laurence is here, so he's probably going to go for the uphill sprints, and I look forward to seeing that as well. But I would also like to point out, Alpecin de Koning has Caden Groves on his preliminary start list. If that is the case, he's going to clean these sprints, no?
Respect, Brennan.
Yeah, that's true. I can't forget about Brand. Brand's actually really good.
Groves the favourite of course, but he was so good in Sanremo yesterday. I mean, Groves is the least hyped good rider almost. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but he has such little hype, and then no one's talking about him at all. Oh yeah, 5th Sanremo.
Hey, we called it.
We did, but like, if Philipsen was there, he wouldn't have even had a chance to sprint, and then he comes 5th. And back, also, there was no... I still don't know. I don't know if Alpecin paid him a shitload of money or if he's happy there. I still don't understand how more teams didn't go for his signature, because he is a sprinter you can actually take to Grand Tours also with a GC rider, because he's not a Pannenkoek and he can climb.
Don't you dare you overuse that sentence. I know I'm the god of overusing and abusing sentences because I'm not native English. So on paper, I'm sorry, bud. I know I overuse those sentences. I'm sorry. I try to not to, but apparently I keep getting roasted in the comments section is what I get reported to me. So hopefully you keep that in mind, comment section, because this man has a heart.
Cook this guy.
Cook him.
Yeah, Groves. Anyway, Groves is here with the Puncher team. As we know, climbers are illegal in Alpecin, so the best climber they got is Jimmy Janssens. But Del Grosso could straight up win stage 1 too, but he's probably going to... So they have a crazy uphill lead out. Crazy. Hermans, Del Grosso, Van Tricht, Plankert. Groves should win at least 2 stages probably.
Yeah.
Trek Bring Kamner returns to racing, which is really exciting. He's won a stage here before, so he hasn't raced since Tirreno last year. He had a huge crash, so he thought he'd never ride again. His life was in danger, so I'm really happy Leonard's back racing. Yeah. They have what looks like to me breakaway hunting team. Mikkel Landers here, who came 3rd, I think, or 2nd last year. He was 2nd strongest behind Pogacar, Bernal 3rd strongest. They have Hayter as well for the uphill sprints, as well as Leclerc and Paris-Pantra. They'll be hoping for something out of those 2 uphill, or 3 rather. And Carapaz is here. They have Marijn van den Berg, another uphill sprinter. I swear 4 years ago, Benji, we used to have no uphill sprinters here, and now they're all sending the correct uphill sprinters.
Mate, we were watching Patrick Bevan sprint for Israel Premier Tech against people that, like, Dorian Godon would win riders. Sprints here 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, Dorian Godon is indeed here with Andrea Vendrame, who just won in Tirreno. Berthe, Amirel, Stanemite Bouchard, and Felix Gall. Felix Gall will be happy that there's no crosswinds, no TT, and about 4 uphill finishes. So I think Gall is looking quite good. And maybe Van Aertveldt's here as well. Corbin Strong's here. Jeez, it's like every uphill sprinter in the world.
Except Matthews, actually.
Except Bling, yeah.
Why is he not here? He's doing the classics, probably.
Probably, yeah, doing the classics.
Don't like it. He should be here.
I think Ayuso is going to clean this up. UAE have the strongest mountain support, although Civicol's been a bit crook. So Torres and Yates and Soler should be more than enough. So I think Ayuso should win. But Roglic, you never know. You never know.
Van Aertveldt had a lot of what I'm looking forward to seeing when it comes to GC as well. Riccitello, like the ones you'd hope to see get anywhere close, but it's going to be Roglic versus Ayuso. I'm not confident in Roglic's level at this point in the season based on what I saw at Algarve, but Algarve's only a month ago. There's been time to grow.
Yeah,
and
I think it'll be better.
I'm guessing he's been on a mountain somewhere in the meanwhile. So as a consequence of that, he should be a little bit better. The Giro is approaching in about 1.5 months, roughly. So he can't be waiting too much when it comes to form. But based on the last couple of weeks, I'd say Ayuso as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing this battle. It should be fun. Hopefully a good Landa, hopefully a good Bernal. That would be nice after his recovery from injury. But anyway,
this is all the Giro. Preview. This is the Giro tune-up. Yates, Ayuso, Roglic, Landa, Pellizzari, Bernal. These are riders all doing the Giro. This is where they go against each other. So yeah.
But is that because of the calendar? Because in the past, we'd say that Romandy and Tour of the Alps were seen as, like 10 years ago, as like preparation races for the Giro. Has cycling changed when it comes to the planning of training camp so much that Catalunya is now the safe in-betweener between 2 training camps to then have the Giro afterwards?
Yeah, that's one reason. Second reason is a lot of these riders were selected by their teams to do the Giro because they have terrible TT. They are not
except
good in
Roglic.
They're not, except Roglic. He's selected because he can win it, but they're not good in positioning.
Yeah.
And then Catalunya has no TT, 4 uphill finishes, no crosswinds, and not as much fighting for positioning. So send them to Catalunya. So it's like I'm talking about Valentin Parry-Pantra, Landa, Simon Yates here. Carapaz, indeed. But yeah, it'll be an exciting race. On Wednesday, we have Brugge-De Panne, 200 Ks World Tour level race for the sprinters, or maybe the classics hard men, depending on the wind direction, because they go through Nokere, which is a very windy zone in the west of Flanders, and if the wind is blowing, it can split the race apart without anybody trying. Who's lining up here, Benji?
That is a very good question, because I did not have the start list ready, but I'm doing that as we speak, so I should be able to tell you pretty soon. This is the women's one. Oops, next one. Let's take a look at this start list. We've got Jasper Philipsen for Alpes in the Koning. By the way, these start lists are unconfirmed, so take this with a grain of salt. These riders might not even show up. We've got Jasper Philipsen, Tim Merlier, Jonathan Milan, Olaf Kooi. Oh
my word.
I don't want echelons. I just want to see the last 5K of this race, and I want a brutal sprint on a wide road between Jasper Philipsen, Olaf Kooi, Tim Merlier, Jonathan Milan, Binyam Girmay. Yeah. Looking for another. Bauhaus is back.
Bauhaus is back. I disagree. I want echelons, but I want the sprinters to make it. And then I want them to have to race. And race in the final, close down moves. Like the final to GP Denain was so exciting. And I want that sort of situation. But with the sprinters involved, I always love seeing their sprinters having to race openly. But yeah, great start. I mean, yeah, it's just a great start list of sprinters. So
Meus, Jacobsen, De Maar, De Lee, Ackerman and Christoph, if we still mention those. We probably would have seen the Klein here if he was not injured.
Say so. I'd say so.
Disappointed. I can feel his tears on the floor of Egle.
Where's the? He's probably raced a million times. Lucas Kubish. He was locked on for the Rockets for a top 7.
He's allowed to rest a bit, I think.
He's having a rest. Okay. That's De Panne. Women's De Panne is the same sort of race basically. It's on the Thursday. It's on the Thursday. It's 154 Ks, quite long, and also with stronger winds predicted actually. So stronger chance of crosswinds in the women's race.
We know who wins.
Pardon?
We know who wins already. Wibbers.
Yeah, true. Wibbers will just win because even if there's crosswinds, she's gonna make it. And then we have the biggest classic to date on Friday, E3 Saxo Classic from Harelbeke to Harelbeke, 210 kilometers long. And actually, it always tricks me. It's 2,200 meters elevation gain across 209 Ks, and the Tour of Flanders is the same elevation gain across 270 Ks. So E3 is
really,
apparently.
It's
because the first 100 Ks of Tour of Flanders are absolutely flat. 140 Ks from Bruges.
Did the parkour change in any way over the last couple of years? Because I'm looking at a parkour that I do remember. Like we've got La Houppe as the first. Like we got the hill zone in the second half of the race, starting with La Houppe, Canadiberg, etc. Then a combination of Côte d'Etrieux, Autonde, which can offer some opportunities, but it's more, as always, with about 80 kilometers to go. You've got the run-in to the Kortekeer. The sprint towards the Kortekeer will happen. On that climb, we will see the peloton block up so that riders can't move to the front anymore. And then after the Kortekeer, we will see a change of tempo from that slow tempo on the climb to a shredding tempo run-in towards the Taaienberg. It always happens. It is going to happen this year. Depending on the wind, this could cause a bit of crosswinds in the run-in towards the Taaienberg or in the run-in towards the Kortekeer. And they will arrive at the Taaienberg. We will see one or two teams maybe trying to make a split in that peloton on the Taaienberg. A group might get ahead from that point, then the race is on. So I'm looking forward to this race, especially because of Le Startlist. Mathieu van der Poel. Next to that, Wout van Aert. Next to that, Tadej Pogacar. No Filippo Ganna. Does that disappoint you?
No, I would like him to prepare for Roubaix ultimately.
Okay.
I just don't think he would be a threat. So
first of all, Van der Poel versus Pogacar on this parkour, because you already said in the Milano Sanremo reaction, a controversial take that Pogacar will win the Tour of Flanders by a minute plus on Mathieu van der Poel. I agree that Pogacar is the favorite. Not sure about a minute plus part. That being said, since 2 years ago, when Pogacar already kind of destroyed Mathieu van der Poel on the same parcours, we've seen Pogacar get better as a rider. So on paper, that should be the case. But Van der Poel's also improved a little. So that could change also. I'm not sure about the minute plus. I see Pogacar as a favorite. But the Saxo Classic is different. Because a couple of years ago, Wout van Aert won here against those other two, while he would not be winning RVV on paper, in my opinion.
Well, he didn't win the next week in 2023.
True.
So, yeah, it's an interesting race. I think the crosswinds could play a big factor, especially when those lead-outs begin into the before, like because the lead-outs will begin into the Koerse and actually even the Nokere. So it's great to have such a stacked start list. We also Vacek and Pedersen on the provisional back, as well as Bini, Dali apparently, Alaphilippe, Rick Plumbers. But yeah, everyone's looking at basically Van Aert, Van der Poel, and Pogacar. Narvaez and Wellens are in good shape, obviously. I don't know. I don't know, Benji. I think I actually don't know what's going to happen. I expect Van der Poel to win.
I agree. I also expect Van der Poel to win this one. I think they will stick together, not as by choice. I think they will try to drop each other on the parcours, but I think at least those two will stick together. I hope, for the sake of Wout van Aert, that he also makes it. I don't have that confidence based on what I've seen this year, but it's been some time. It's been a month since that, so maybe sitting on the mountain for a month has helped him. And I hope we see the big 3, 4, whatever riders in this race, depending on how you count Pedersen as well, crossing towards the finish line together after attacking each other the entire race. Maybe one of them drops here or there, and we see a bit of a 1v1 sprint of the leftovers of that group, and I think Mathieu van der Poel wins that against Pogacar. That's my view of things. But hopefully, subversion of expectations, unpredictability. That's what we want in cycling. Maybe we get a very long attack. Where's Starling? What is he doing?
I don't know. It could be Starling. Who's starting for INEOS?
We don't know. I would like to see Starling do this and attack early. But then again, can you attack early if the race opens up on the timer? Or is it getting in that split and then attacking away from that split?
He's got to get ahead because he doesn't have the explosivity. Same with Ganna. We sort of saw yesterday because he's like kind of Ganna-style rider. Gent-Wevelgem, the Sprinters Classic, and indeed, but Pogacar's lining up this year. We have 260 Ks more or less from where is it?
What do you mean from? From Ypres?
Yeah, but it's not from Gent. Yeah, from Ypres to Wevelgem. And it's a flatter race, but with some very, very steep cobble climbs. They do the Kemmelberg 3 times, once from the steep Ossuer side. That's the last repetition, which is mega steep on cobbles, as well as the Barneberg, Monteberg, and that hill zone begins with 100 Ks to go, ends with 33 Ks to go. A lot of flat in between, a lot of crosswind potential. They go through. Do they go through the Mure beforehand?
They do beforehand in the after about 50 kilometers into the race. I'm pretty sure in the women's race, and in the men's race, I think it's later. I'm trying to figure it out.
Sometimes it's split pre-coverage, so often in Wevelgem the coverage will start and there's 3 echelons, and you're like, what's happened?
In the men's race after 100 kilometers, so it's probably going to be pre-coverage still.
So yeah, it'll be a very interesting race then with Pogacar, who obviously does not want to go to a sprint, and then a lot of teams with a sprinter here. So like Johnny Milan or Jasper Philipsen with no Van der Poel. Yes. So they're obviously going for a sprint. Bauhaus, Olav Koy, even, I don't know, Manier for Quick Step. And yet UAE are going to want to open the race. So there's going to be crosswinds. I think it's going to be pretty exciting actually to see those two forces against each other.
Tadej Pogacar wins Gent-Wevelgem solo.
Be impressive.
It would be impressive. Holding off all the sprinters. Like the one
I don't think the Kemmelberg suits the light, guys.
it depends on which part. Because I feel like the camel betting is very steep at the top. I'm sorry, but the Suer side, we're talking, isn't it like 20% in places?
20%, yeah. But I
Don't
think
tell me that helps.
I think the Monteberg or the Barneberg. Oh yeah, the Monteberg is a better climb for him. Actually,
Possibly.
anyway, that'll be really exciting. That's on Sunday, and then we'll preview Dwars of Lanterne next weekly show. We also have, just quickly, Settimana Coppi Bartali, which is a 5-day Italian stage race which has actually a decent start list of young riders doing it. We have Jay Vine. Wow. So UAE, I was surprised they're not sending Torres or Pericas, but yeah, Vine, Micah, Covey. Covey was good in Torino. Ben Tullett, who's been good. Nordhagen, starting for Visma.
Ewan.
You what? What?
Caleb Ewan is there for INEOS Grenadiers. Preliminary start list.
No, but I think you're right. I think I remember hearing that.
What's the parkour like? It's
not that good. Not that good for him.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Maybe the last stage a bit, I guess.
No, the first stage is an absolutely flat sprint.
It was so flat it looked like a time trial to me. The first time I looked at it.
I was like, the rest he's not making the finish unless something has changed.
Mate,
so,
I was like 175 kilometer individual time trial. What?
Where's Josh Darling? He'll win that by 5 minutes. So yeah, that's a sort of interesting anecdote, Benji. Christian Scaroni also apparently there for XTS Astana. So I think it's gonna be a battle between Visma, Astana, and UAE.
Yep.
And then maybe some other guys like show themselves from Polti or whoever. As well. Jano Widar. Yeah, he'll be battling with them too. Adrian Boishy just won Spring Trophy for Red Bull Rookie for Hangers Girl Rookies. So yeah, nice young race for the young riders with some punchy uphill finishes.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to see the youngsters. Nordhagen, he's not had necessarily the season he was hoping for, most likely, but he's 20, so he's got time to grow up on the bike. So just look forward to seeing that race, because let's be honest about it, most people probably won't be watching this race. So just hearing updates about it will be intriguing enough to see how these young riders progress. Did we mention for women's Gent-Wevelgem? Or do we just say Wiebes?
Sorry, we did not. But if Wiebes is doing it, you know who we're picking. Wiebes is doing it. So, yeah, I mean...
Is it disrespectful?
No, it's not, Benji, because it's not disrespectful, because look at it's not just that Wiebes is the best sprinter, and also she's not just a sprinter, she's she's almost impossible to drop.
Yeah.
They have Kopecky, Bredevold, and Marta Lach. What are you going to do?
On top of that, you got to keep in mind that if I look through the start list, Little Trek is going for Balsamo. Canyon is going for Consoni. Every single team, even Puk Pieterse is not here, that team is most likely going for Julie de Wilde. So if I look through that start list, then if all the other teams are wanting a sprint, then who's going to be open up on the hill zone?
UAE, Longa Borghini is the sole fighter this year so far. She's the only one giving it a crack.
I agree. So Wiebes is going to win this race.
I'll pick Longa Borghini. I think I hope she gets rewarded for her attacking style.
But does Kopecky not follow her?
Yes, that's the problem. Kopecky follows her and then doesn't have to pull. Because Longa Borghini has Lara Gillespie. She's not going to beat Wiebes, is she?
No.
So I'm keen to see how Kat Ferguson goes in a Belgian classic like this. I think it's a good course for her. Crosswinds, shitty cold weather maybe. Yeah, I think we're watching Kat Ferguson as well. Okay, Benji, we'll round off then. You have to pick your winner of Cholet Aglo Tour today.
I will do so, my friend. The Cholet Aglo Tour. Let me try and find the start list for a second, because, sorry, I don't know it by heart. I'll be very sorry about that. The parcours, we got to look into that for a second. It's 209 kilometers.
You don't look at the parcours. It's just a missed French race.
200 meters, 7.5% climb. So that's a speed bump in cycling terms. And my winner for this race is...
Vito Breit.
Huub Aerts.
We're both going into Marseille.
No, it's not fucking happening. He's not been that good this year.
I think Vito Breit's winning.
Jordan Labrosse.
Solo. Okay.
Even though Paul Seychelles exists.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
No. I'm changing my pick. Emilien Janier.
Oh, or no, he doesn't win.
Today he does.
Only in Japan or to the Kyushu.
France is a new Japan. Geopolitical podcast.
The French teams are like, thank fuck. No UAE, no Visma. Like, finally, the French cup race is back where it belongs. With the French teams plus Wanty. Okay, thanks for listening to the weekly show. As always, we'll be back.
No. Lukas Kubic could also be a pick. He's here.
Is he there? Okay.
Are you going for him?
No. I'm picking Vitor Brad. We won't be doing weekly Catalunya daily Catalunya recaps. We will do a Wednesday recap of Catalunya up to that point, plus Brugge-De Panne, and then we'll have E3 and of course Gent-Wevelgem on the Sunday. So at least 3 pods this week, and we'll cover Catalunya along the way in conjunction with the classics that are going on in Belgium. Thanks for joining Cycling, as always, for supporting the weekly show. I got to get in the car, although it's snowing, so that's no good. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao.